The sad thing about it is that our kids are not a match for a predator. Okay. And that's why I tell parents it is the parent's job to protect the child, not the child's job to protect themselves. Okay. The power dynamic is just too heavy. So that, and groomers are good, right? These predatory groomers are good. They have perfected it. They know how to go in, they know how to convince the child that it's not a bad thing. But there is a constant check-in that you're doing with your kid. Hey, did anybody make you feel uncomfortable? And a lot of times groomers do things in front of a parent because
It's a very heavy topic today, so I think that having the most casual atmosphere and just lay back, I think is really healthy. But anyways, welcome to another episode of the Mom Panel, and I welcome you to this episode, especially because it is an important topic. I think that making this episode is it's very heavy. It's a very heavy topic, and so it's difficult. And I think Miss Michelle was not here for part one, and maybe maybe it's a little difficult for Miss Michelle. Would that be accurate to say, to talk about something like sexual trauma, preventing, keeping our children safe? Yes.
I just, I have to say, like I said, I think we talked about this before.
Sure.
When we were bringing all this up, being raised the way that I was raised in the Mormon community, like this kind of stuff was never talked about. And also, I don't know anybody. I've never had contact with anybody that has actually opened up about this kind of stuff. So honestly, like, I am going to listen to you ladies and I will make my inputs here. But this is I just don't know much about this topic,
Yeah.
but I'm here to support in any way that I can because it is important. And actually, I'm looking forward to knowing how to prevent this with my own daughter, right?
Yeah.
So, yes.
I mean, Natalie, I think that what we would love for you to help us with today is, parents such as Michelle. I cannot include myself in that category where I, was not exposed, and, I have virgin ears for this topic. That's just not the case. But, I would love for us to start, especially with, just what is sexual trauma? What does it mean? What are some specific behaviors that may seem innocent but could actually be red flags that abuse or grooming may be occurring in or outside of the home? Maybe some important monitoring tips for our children if they're on their phone or online, and why that's important, and just teach digital safety, stuff like that, security today. So yeah, let's jump into it. What do you think about what does it mean to have sexual trauma or be exposed to it or look like?
okay. Yeah. So, I mean, this is a heavy topic, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with it. And oftentimes, when we're uncomfortable with stuff, we shy away from it. So, it's not a topic that a lot of people actually have a lot of understanding about. And I think that's the part that has to change. I think the more we are familiar with the topic, the more comfortable we are discussing it. With stats the way they are, and they have not changed. I've been, digging in this for like 15 years or so. 1 in 3 girls before the age of 18 will be sexually assaulted, and 1 in 5 or 6 boys will be sexually assaulted. That goes across all socioeconomic levels, all educational levels, all racial levels. It is a standard stat that just sits there, and unfortunately, it is not moving. Even with us talking about it more, the prevention side of it has not taken as much steam as I wish it would. I've been, teaching to parents, to schools, to organizations as often as I can, but I will tell you that a lot of people are not interested until it hits their doorstep. And when it hits the
Interesting.
doorstep, then it's tell me everything. And it's interesting because you think most parents are so preventive about so many things, right? We're figuring out food and the best schools and play groups and and all of these things. But the thing that could hit you because it's at epidemic levels, right? Not many things
Right.
are 1 in 3. Not many things are 1 in 5 in our society, even the worst of the worst things. But this is a standard, and though it's not often discussed, 9 times out of 10 we know somebody. So, like I always tell parents, the next time you go to your kids' class, count out 1 in 3 girls, count out 1 in 5 boys, and it is astounding that this will occur. And that's before the age of 18. That's not even including adult assaults that go on. So, unfortunately, rape and molestation is something that is a common space, and there's a lot of people that participate in it that often get away with it. So, if just to your questions, what is sexual trauma? And that's like a really broad definition that I can give because if you look at it that way, then it's almost any act that makes the victim feel vulnerable, scared, that is non consensual, right? So, all those different things fall in that line if you look at it that way, right? So, I like using that broad definition because I don't want to downplay any things and put them on like a comparison. Though are some
Hmm.
things worse than others? Absolutely, right? We're not gonna shy away from and make it all equal. But people can walk away feeling very, very violated by something somebody can just brush off and say, well, at least you did not have, right?
Right.
Something as extreme as, like penetration, right? And so with that definition, everything will not fall into criminality. There's many things that people will in the justice system itself will overlook. That will not be seen as that. It will not be a serious violation. But because the criminal justice system doesn't see it as that, does not mean we should not. It doesn't mean that we should make it small because we don't have enough evidence to prosecute. And that has happened far too many times. The level of evidence that is needed to prosecute is actually really high, which is why a lot of people just get pushed aside, even when caught. Again, statistically, and I'll throw out a lot of statistics because it helps people understand the gravity of what we're talking about. For the average molester, for his first conviction, he has already molested between 100 and 112 kids. So when you look at it that way, I see Jill's eyes,
Ooh.
but
Ooh.
when you look at it that way, they've gotten away with so many people so that when that one comes, it's almost for them like this is pretty good odds, right? And then the average sentence looking at 3 to 5 years. So when you're looking at that, that's why it's hard to put it, in a bottle because it's happening so frequently and they get away with it.
Natalie, that's those numbers are incredibly depressing.
Very, yeah.
um and
It just made
it's
me
no
think of,
wonder. Yes, go ahead, Michelle.
sorry, Jackie, it just kind of made me think of when you said, go somewhere and just think of 1 out of 3. It just made me think of my daughters, like she's 8. There's 22 kids in her class, and I'm thinking, holy crap, like this is a lot. This is a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
and
Hmm.
even boys too, right? And
absolutely.
I I just something that came to mind is, in the special needs environment, I bet that it's probably
Yes.
even higher and
Hmm.
they're not able
Oh.
to communicate.
Hmm.
And I have heard horror stories of
Hmm.
these things, and so we are very, very. I mean, these days, Drake can communicate, but when he couldn't, it was something that we worried about because he, from a young age, we would put him in the bus to go to school, even though it was like a 4-minute ride to his school. It's still like kind of in the back of our minds. Um, I Yeah, I just, geez, I can. Natalie, I don't know if you have any statistics when it comes to special needs children, but I have heard awful stories. And like I said, they probably cannot even communicate that these things are actually happening. Scares me.
Yes, Michelle. I mean, the numbers are a bit higher for them, but because of you have many that can't communicate, a lot of their cases don't go detected unless there's real physical evidence to the body that the parents can detect. And then you're able to see it. And that's where it's so important, especially in that community, that they are educated on what to look for, the little nuances, the different things, because the body keeps the score, right? The body will show you if you're paying attention. And it's those physical signs sometimes that we are not looking for that can get pushed aside, or if it's frequent urination, or you see a fear when they're going into the bathroom, or now they're more apprehensive if you go to touch them. It's those things that we can pay attention to hone in on. But it is being very vigilant, not paranoid, because I don't want anyone to be paranoid, though sometimes when I finish these, I know people are paranoid, but I just want us to be vigilant and paying attention to the little things, because
Okay.
it starts off with the small uncomfortable gestures that if we're looking and paying attention, we will see them. I think I said in the last episode that we did on this is that you want a question mark over everyone's head and just keep it there until you feel safe, because the moment we feel someone is safe is the moment we stop looking for danger. And so if I put a question mark, this is from, and I say it for everybody. I did the same thing with mine, from my parents to my siblings to close friends to, I wanted a question mark over everybody until I felt they were vetted out and I was comfortable and my kid was able to convey to me that they were comfortable. Right. So
So
if you
does that
keep it
mean,
across the
sorry,
board,
Natalie, go on.
go ahead, Jackie.
I was going to ask, so does that mean that, that, because now we're talking about a child being able to convey this, right? Being verbal. What are some of the things that you as a mom were looking out for when you were trying to vet these individuals, friends, family, whomever? What?
So um I'm paying attention to how they interact with my daughter. I had two daughters. I have two daughters, and I'm paying attention to how they interact with them. Just side eyeing, right? Just watching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm paying attention to my child's body language. That do they
Mm-hmm.
seem comfortable? Do they seem apprehensive at all? Every time we left an event, even if I was present, I would ask them when we got home, did you feel safe? Was there anything that they did that made you feel unsafe, right? Or just uncomfortable? Because I want them to have that language, right? This started with about 3 year olds. You start being able to have some kind of dialogue conversation of what that is. At two, I'm starting really the conversation about the body and who can touch, who should not touch. Let me know
How
if
do
I
you
do something that's
how do you
uncomfortable.
do that with a 2-year-old?
2 year old, so it's saying the actual body parts. Is nobody is supposed to touch you. Wear your underwear cover, right? Some people use if you have books, wear the bathing suit covers. If anybody is touching you and you feel uncomfortable, you let me know. If I touch you, or your dad touches you and you feel uncomfortable, you let me know. If we keep it broad, where everyone's included, then the kid never gets the idea that no one's included. Because what happens a lot of time in the family is that, and we know that 90% of child sexual abuse is from a family member, a trusted or a trusted adult. Okay. So with those stats being that high, that means I have to pay attention to everyone in my family. I have to put a second guess over everyone. So I'm doing that in the beginning. I'm paying attention. I'm watching. I'm looking when you think no one's watching, like a family gathering. I'm seeing, are you the adult that's always going up under the kids? Are you touching or tickling or roughhousing? And the kid, you can see when a kid is uncomfortable. You know that with your own, right? Like if you're playing with them and you tickle them too hard and it's like pull away a little bit, or I don't want to be touched anymore, right? And we give them that language to say, I don't want to be touched. I am uncomfortable with you. And we as adults have to be comfortable with making other adults uncomfortable if my kid is uncomfortable. And that is a big, big part of it. That if I tell my kid, because it's your grandmother or your grandfather or your auntie or whatever, that you cannot say anything to them, then I've created an atmosphere that I've given certain adults permission to do whatever they want to my kid, and my kid doesn't have the right to speak on it.
Yeah.
So that's
No,
how we
yeah.
started.
I feel like we've talked on about this in other areas, I feel like, and just this idea of boundary setting and like your child feeling comfortable that they have a right from a young age to say things like that. And I think it's really tricky because some of it I think is like, generationally, sometimes I think it's culturally. But there are a lot of things, like I certainly have a lot of memories as a child of like, it was rude if you didn't hug so and so. Like, it was that we don't do that, that's disrespectful. And there was definitely a lot of things that I can go back to that, even if it, and not, I'm not even talking at the level of, danger that maybe we're talking about in this situation, but just that there was something in my
Mm-hmm.
body that was like, I don't want to do this, but I'm being told I have to do it. Which then I feel like now, as someone who works in child development and as a mom myself, now I look and I'm like, wow, that's setting a pattern from a very young age that's showing a child, hey, your inner voice is telling you something. Don't trust that. If everyone else is telling you it's fine, then it's fine. Don't listen to you because everyone else is saying it's okay, right? And I look
Absolutely.
at a pattern over time and I can almost like see the connection of like, then maybe in college when like that guy was a little too close to me and I didn't like it, but like I didn't want to be rude, right? It's like I can now make those connections and see sort of where that originated. So
Mm-hmm.
something that I think a lot about, and it has been a point, not gonna lie, like it's been a point of contention in my family with certain family members because I do make it really clear, like, you don't have to hug so and so goodbye. You don't have to give them a kiss. You don't have to like, and it has been problematic, and it has offended people. And but I feel really strongly that my daughter know that the people that really love you and care about you will never stop loving you just because you don't want to be touched.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying like just resonates with me so much because
Yeah.
I can see those connections in myself and even into things like people pleasing and like, these things that just then get so woven into the DNA of the adults we become because it becomes really clear to us as children from the people that we trust in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
that you're liked better when you make other people happy and comfortable, even if it's to your own detriment. Right?
Absolutely.
It's
Hmm.
like, it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. I
Absolutely. I
feel like there's so
agree.
many things that then we like as adults are trying through therapy and through all these different exercises, right, to shift in ourselves
The people
that kind of
pleasing syndrome.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like started there. And it's hard because again, like I said, I think a lot of it, it's like cultural norms too, right? And these other things that kind of play into why that happens. But um yeah, I like it makes me feel really like kind of proud and excited when I see my daughter able to do the things that I even as an adult feel like I can't or struggle with when
Mm-hmm.
she's just like, no thanks. Or like, I
You
don't
know,
want to give a hug. I'll give you a high five. And I'm like, yes,
I
girl. Like, I
Right.
it's such like a moment of pride because I struggle with it so much at my
Mm-hmm.
age. But I'm curious, Natalie, maybe like, and I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I think a lot about that's one way, right, where I think it can start now, even at this young age. But what are some of the other things we can do, like you mentioned, about using the appropriate names for body parts and, obviously like allowing children to feel comfortable setting boundaries around physical touch and around, what they're comfortable with. What are some of the other age appropriate things that we can start from these early stages to help? Because I think another big fear for me that maybe you guys may also feel is this idea of, my daughter is 4. She is in preschool part-time. I put a lot of thought and research into the place that she's in school, like, keeping things like her safety in mind. But I'm also not always there, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to feel like in all the ways possible, when I'm there, I can monitor certain things that you spoke to, but what are some of the things that we can do to build within our child so in our absence from a young age, they know what should or shouldn't be happening, or what they can or can't say no to, or to tell me if they don't like something. What are some of the things we can do?
So, I mean, with school in particular, I think one thing that most parents don't do when they choose schools is really interview the school about their sexual abuse practices and how do
Mm,
they deal with it, and how do they address it if a student brings it up, if a parent feels uncomfortable. When I put my kids in school, I had a whole long list. Um, in the book, The Gift of Fear, and the author's name is escaping me right now. He gives a long list of questions to ask um,
mm,
for schools, for you to be comfortable. Because one thing is, it alerts the school that it alerts the school that you have some presence about it, and that if you have someone there that is, predatory, then they're on guard that this not this kid, right? Because the parent is coming in with all of these questions and asking and all of this. But in regards to our children, the sad thing about it is that our kids are not a match for a predator. Okay. And that's why I tell parents it is the parent's job to protect the child, not the child's job to protect themselves. Okay.
mhm.
The power dynamic is just too heavy. So that, and groomers are good, right? These predatory groomers are good. They have perfected it. They know how to go in, they know how to convince the child that it's not a bad thing. They know how to convince the child that maybe you even like this, right? Um, so what we do is the parameters that we put around it, the boundaries we put around it, is the constant dialogue, right? Not constant meaning every day because that's excessive, but there is a constant check-in that you're doing with your kid. And even if it's at 4, like, what'd you guys do today? Hey, did anybody make you feel uncomfortable? Hey, and you don't have to make it heavy, right? You want to keep it a certain amount of lightness, because if your kid feels like you're coming down on them, they withdraw a little bit. So we want to keep it to where it's conversations that becomes commonplace. So they're like, oh yeah, my mom's gonna ask this all the time. My kids got on my truly got on their nerves. Because throughout their life I was doing, they're like, Mom, we know, we got it down. Nothing's happening. Okay, but I just have to keep
So true.
reiterating it every new thing that comes in. I have to ask again.
Better safe
You're
than
even
sorry, like I always
better
say.
safe, right? You're even asking about friends. Like, did your friends seem weird, or did they try to touch you? Because realize that with little kids, sometimes the
Mm,
behavior gets passed because they don't know it's wrong, right? And if it becomes this thing that looks regular, right? One of the questions you asked Jackie about, like innocent behaviors and innocent
Right.
behaviors that you may not recognize are weird, and that's like the long hugs, the tickling when you want them to stop, giving a kiss when you didn't want it, a grab or a rub on the bottom, like those little things can be done in front of a parent. And a lot of times groomers do things in front of a parent because they want to establish a certain line that says this happened in front of them and your parent did nothing. Right? Now, we didn't see it. We didn't know it was harmful. We don't know what they were building up to, but they're always creating an atmosphere. These are the most calculating people that you could ever meet. And some people will disagree, but you look at the stats and how they move and how they get victims, how constant they are. It is calculated. It is not, don't believe the myths and the hypes of giving excuses. It is done on purpose and they know what they're doing. Okay. Um, if we're
Can
not
I
paying attention, we don't know. Go ahead, Jackie.
I wanted to ask you because then this is the opportunity I'm gonna actually get, or I'm gonna take to share my story a little bit. Um, so I went through a lot of therapy. I'm okay, everyone. Just before preemptively, I'm telling you right now, God is good. Um, but I unfortunately was one of the children that were molested at a very very early age of less than 3 years old. I can just tell you right now, I don't know the exact age, but I know that it was as early as maybe 2.5, maybe 2. And for some people, their memories don't go that far back. I, for whatever reason, have memories that go that far back. And the reason I know is because I saw my mom pregnant, and my mother gave birth to my sister shortly after. And I remember this time, and she and I are only 2.5 years apart. So these are the memories I have dating back as to when I was that age. So let's let Taisha in real quick. Hi, Taisha. I'm just telling my story right now. So basically, I remember a couple things, and I want us to kind of go into the mind of a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, right, real quick. I remember that, I did find adult magazines under my parents' bed. So that's kind of how it all kind of began. I think that in terms of exposure, not in terms of grooming. And then I thought that, mimicking and imitating certain things that I saw was normal. So there were certain things that, and in this case, I have to unfortunately blame my father. It wasn't my mother. My mother was coming from a very small town in Central America, had no idea, very, very religious and all of this. But my father came in and acquired, immigrant, came into the States and did the whole, 80s and 90s kind of situation where the boys, go out and they get magazines and they try to hide them and it doesn't work. So at that time, what happened to me was that I, was taken advantage by somebody that my parents were renting out a room to. And this man, would speak to me, play with me, take me privately in, and my parents trusted him. So I guess going into all of this, the behaviors were anywhere from thinking it was completely okay to, I guess, expose my private areas to my parents, talk about my private areas as if it was just absolutely nothing. But it was very much, a lot of it was chatting about private areas, a lot of talk about private areas, and even imitating certain things that I thought were normal. And I did the imitations with like my stuffed animals, dolls, stuff like that. So anyways, I don't want to trigger anybody. I just want to take you into these possible behaviors, and maybe Natalie, maybe Taisha, anything you have around like this early age. And also, I had a lot of vaginal problems growing up. I don't know why. This was a huge thing that I had. And also wetting the bed was part of it. So these are kind of my experiences growing up. So I could talk about it now, and it's totally, not, of course, I thinking back, I'm like, whoa, that nothing of that was normal. But I'll give you the space, Natalie. What does a parent do? And my mother had no idea, right? Like she didn't know what to look for.
Well, I mean, the acting out is one way that we can detect it, right? So you have small children that are being very sexual, and I mean, we have to remember that kids don't know about sexuality, right? They're not just born with this thing of how to perform. So if you start seeing your child, you know, showing sexual acts, masturbating a lot, any of those types of things is when you pay attention to say what's going on and how did they learn these behaviors. Um, and vaginal problems, right? Problems with the bottom, those different types of things are things to cue you in to say something is going on. Bedwetting, for whatever reason, is always a big indication that there's something that is amiss, especially when you had a child that was completely potty trained and then they revert back to it, right? And you're like, what's going on? Bathroom issues always sometimes go along with some sexual abuse that occurs. But the grooming part that you're talking about is, a lot of times it is showing racy material. It is getting the kid comfortable with those images and, oh, this is what we do and let me show you. And it can sometimes start with no touching of the child at all. And it's just showing those materials, or it can be
Yes.
telling the child to touch themselves, right? Before they initiate the adult coming in on it. So it's when I say grooming, I want us to really think about it's a step by step progression to get the kid comfortable. The last thing a predator wants is to lose the victim quickly. So the reason why they're willing to go, 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years is because generally they're grooming more than one kid. And the longer that they get with the kid, the more indoctrination they can do, the more trust of the parent. Remember that they're not just grooming the child, they're also grooming the parent. They're making the parent feel comfortable. They're saying, hey, y'all, let me take your kid for a little bit. I know you guys are busy or whatever. I'll go and do these kind of things with them. It's those types of things. And it's a relief sometimes. Like if it's a good person, it's wonderful, right? If it's a safe person, is what we want somebody to come in and help us with the parenting, help us, give us a break if we got to run to the store or whatever. Those are normal things and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're not vetted, if I'm not sure that you're safe, then I put my child in danger and I'm unaware of it. So it is paying attention to all of that and to the question you had, Jill, about other things about that we can teach our children. It really does go into if you see something that is uncomfortable, if you feel like it's adult stuff that a child should know about, you let
Mm,
me know about that, right? If somebody tells you that it's okay for me to do it and nobody else, right? And you tell me first, and I'll let you know if that is safe.
mm,
It's really just broadening that conversation because we know that they use many different things. Um, Another thing that is often used is they become the cool person, right? They're the person that lets the kid break all the rules. They're the ones
mhm.
that it's like, oh, I don't listen to them. Yeah, come on, I'll give you an extra donut, or yeah, we'll go get this, or I'll buy you that game that your mom doesn't want you to have. You wanted these shoes, okay, let me get you these. Or they become almost the family friend with the kids, right? So all the kids are like, oh, that's the cool one, but you're unaware that these underlying ulterior motives are happening. Again, if they're good people, then it's wonderful. But if it's a dangerous person, we've invited them in, and we've invited more than just the one kid, mine, but I've invited the family friends, right? Along with the ride in that as well. So you're paying attention to potting behaviors. You're paying attention to if they were drawn all of a sudden and it seems weird. If they used to like going to someone's house and now they don't, right? You used to enjoy going to auntie and uncle's house and now you're like, Mom, please don't leave me. So if you hear that and it's tough, especially when it's situations where, like, let's say that your parents are the caregivers, right? And they keep the kids after school. and everything was fine. And then now all of a sudden your kid is like, please don't let me go there. Let me just come with you, pick me up after, and I'll sit at your job and I won't say anything. Those are things you have to cue in and say, what is going on, especially if it's continuous, because they're letting you know in a way that they can tell you. Remember, a lot of kids don't have the language or the understanding to say X, Y, and Z happen. 75% do not tell while they're children. Okay. And it has nothing to do with always is closeness. You can have a great relationship with your kid, but you haven't delved in these areas. You're not comfortable with these subjects. And so the kid is also uncomfortable and scared. And if we're talking about a little older kids, they also are aware if I tell this, I'm about to break the family up. There's going to be sides taken, right? And it's going to be me that's causing the break, it's causing the breach in all of this. And because we know a lot of adults don't take the child side, you'll have a lot of adults that will
Absolutely.
go after a kid, right? And act like the kid's the problem, not the adult.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing those points across. I want, because we have tweens also that are exposed to all of this, I do want to go into digital safety and cell phones and how do, guys, Snapple fact, this is coming from my 25-year-old today. She's 25 today. I didn't know. Mind you, I was the parent that was like, no, you don't get to have a cell phone until you're 15. And this was back in 2013-ish, 12, where all the kids had cell phones in high school. They were starting to have cell phones in high school. So mine came a little later in the game, but I still put solid foundational rules and like all the stuff and thinking, that she's safe. Come to find that actually her and all of her peers were exposed to predators on their phone. And I had no idea. There was a platform, I can't remember the name, and call me forgetful or old. But it's something like Weeble or anyways, it's a platform that who? Which one? Did
Omegle?
someone say something? Yes.
Omegle?
Omegle. Okay, so you're familiar with that, Natalie. Go ahead. I'm just going to give you the platform right now on that.
And I saw your hand up, Michelle, so we're going to hit you as soon as I finish this part. So the thing with digital safety, right, is that we can keep our kids off of it. Every child at some point in time is going to be on it. Okay. And if you don't give them access, they'll be using their friends. Okay. So it's important that
Literally,
you
this is true.
Literally, right? You instruct your kids about what digital safety is. But again, parents have to know what that is, right? So it's about monitoring. It is about understanding what devices connect to outside things, right? When I also do seminars about digital and cyber safety as well as human trafficking. So in this part that I talk about, I try to really give parents an understanding of how deep we go into this, okay? Because we are now living with homes without walls. We have access and people have access to us and our children in a way that we have never experienced. So we can have these protections around, right? I said the 90% of family and friends and close relatives or coaches and everything. But then you now have the second element of strangers, complete strangers that you never get to see. You don't know who's on the other side of it, but they have interaction with our children. Most games, and people don't think of like little video games, for little kids. Like it was one game, I think it was called Barnyard or something. And they end up discovering that with that, there could be interaction with outside people. And the amount of predators that we're talking to, 4 and 5 and 6 year olds, was astounding, right? So any game that connects to where you can have like a social media aspect, you have to monitor, okay? Video games are not just safe. They have to be
Michelle.
monitored.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Go ahead,
I'm gonna
Michelle.
interrupt because here's the thing. So my children, so for a little while there, we took away the iPads altogether because it was really affecting the behavior, especially of my son. And so just recently, when we went to Brazil for Christmas, we gave it back. But then we're definitely going to have to change a few things now because we gave it back and now it's like, okay, but here's what I was going to say. So, like, for example, Roblox, right? Like, all kids love Roblox and they ask me all the time, can you log me into Roblox? Because sometimes it takes them off. But then I had to go and honestly, I'm not a tech person, not at all. I don't know how to do this stuff, but I had to go in there and I had to make like changes into their settings because Drake actually he got in trouble. He got suspended from Roblox for 24 hours for sending inappropriate texts. And but he doesn't write. And so the inappropriate texts were like lips, like kisses or hearts or something like that to other to people that he didn't know. But they were like his quote unquote friends on Roblox. So he got blocked off for doing that. And that raised my thing. I was like, what? How? What? So anyway, I had to go in there. I had to figure out. So now my kids only have access to friends, and they're the friends that I allow them to have. Like I do not allow anybody else. My daughter yesterday was playing her cousin in Brazil, and I had to have my brother allow my daughter and vice versa because I didn't want that to keep happening. The other thing I had to do, and this is probably not even something, it's not a game, it's freaking YouTube. Kids will go on YouTube and they will learn so many things off of that that it just opens up like a whole world of images and
Mm-hmm.
behaviors and those type of things. So they don't have access to YouTube. I cut it off. Not even YouTube Kids. They don't have access to it. I had to shut down Safari because my son could figure out how to get on those things, like how to get on TikTok through Safari. He's so smart that he would get his, like, through Safari, he would, like, get in to do things. So, like, really, I had to, like, lock it down, you know, and shut it because I was really like after he got blocked, like banned from Roblox for 24 hours, I was like, what? So anyway, these things are also like the social media, the all of this. And I'm going to tell you a quick story really quick. So a couple of days ago, so Rio's in a cheerleading team and they are kids. They're girls from anywhere from 7 to 9, I think. Yeah, 7 to 9 year olds. And we have the parents, we have an app that's called Band, and all of the information is posted on there. And then all of a sudden, 2 nights ago, there comes a message that says, um, if you girls have phones and they are on the text thread with the other girls, please check because there's inappropriate things being shared and you have to just something like that, take responsibility for it, just go check because they are saying things that they might not even know what they mean, but they are inappropriate. I have no idea what it was because Ria was not in it, but and I got that and I was thinking, these are cheerleaders. They're 7 to 9 year olds, and this is happening. Like, and this is girls. And one thing I was going to bring up too, and Natalie, I know we're running out of time, but I was thinking of, this is what I was going to talk when I raised my hand, was the the community that they are in, their culture. So, I'm Brazilian. we kiss, we hug, we are so
Mm-hmm.
physical with other people. So I was listening to Jill a little bit, and I was like, I need to play devil's advocate on here, because we literally, like, we do everything through hugs, through kisses. I pick up my kids. We just,
So true
like,
here as well
and
in the Latino community.
right, Jackie? Like, that's how it is. That's how we are. And so that, I think, even causes, I was thinking what Jill was saying, like, how my daughter actually wants to go and kiss somebody. Like, she is, and sometimes she doesn't, and that's okay. But, that's how we are. And so how do we even protect that culture in a way, in a different way than, it is different from the Americans, like from the white people. I hate to say it that way, but
From the white people, the
yes.
American.
Yeah,
You
but
know
I
what I
think
mean?
I think Michelle that it's like it's just that's where like the boundary piece of it comes in because it's about
Yes.
respect on both sides. It's about, maybe me in that situation being like that's different than what I'm used to, but like wow, like really cool that that's, how your family interacts and like
Yes.
and you know what I mean? So I feel like as long as you are, and I know you are because I know you, are cultivating like that with your kids of like, hey, let's just be really mindful of everybody having different levels of comfort. And that's what we do. But not
Yes.
everyone feels comfortable with that. And let's just kind of be aware of the people around us. Like that's what I feel like it really comes
And
down
that's
to.
key,
Absolutely.
Jill, is making other people comfortable, because not everybody is as comfortable as we are with the hugging and the kissing. And I actually had to um, get my kids to understand that we don't do this as often. You know what I mean? Like, we don't do this on with certain people. Like, I don't know how to explain it. If they don't want it, you have to, it's okay. So I
Yeah.
had to teach them that way, because
Yeah.
we want to. Like, we want to
Yeah.
hug. We want to, like, my kids, they will run and they will jump in somebody's arms. And that, Natalie, that kind of worries me a little bit too, because we
Mm-hmm.
have raised them so open. And I, maybe I need to figure something else out on how to teach them this. But I also don't want to cut that culture, that
Totally.
warmth, the way that my kids are. Like, I don't want that to be different, because we're so scared of something else happening.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that we have to necessarily change your culture. I think
Right.
what a huge part of it um, is that you're teaching kids their instincts. You're teaching them how to listen to that inner voice. But even in a culture where it's huggy, kissy, and all of that, right? It is still times when you don't want to be hugged. There are times when somebody hugs you and that hug felt uncomfortable. It felt too long. It you lingered a little too tightly. It's those little things that you are cueing your kids into. It's not the greeting just of hey, how you doing, hug, kiss, whatever. But it is being mindful that being too open can be dangerous in a world where there's a lot of dangerous people that
Yes.
physical affection is not appropriate all the time, right?
Yes.
And sometimes we want to keep that openness in fear of we're gonna cause like paranoia or stop a natural processing of love and affection being given. But it is cueing your kids into, hey, there's gonna be times, and there may be a time that somebody that we know and love makes you feel uncomfortable in that hug, right? And I want you to be able to tell me. It's as simple
Yes.
as that. Not cutting it off, just as simple as that. That if there's ever a time when someone touches you and you feel uncomfortable, I want you to tune into that. And the reason
Yeah.
why the tuning in is because part of what you said, Jill, earlier about how we carry these messages lifelong is that we keep blocking our inner tuition, that we get in situations where the hair on the back of my neck is raised and I'm feeling uncomfortable and there's something in me, but I don't have evidence. And so I continue on until I get evidence. And sometimes the evidence can be harming. So that's the QN is, and I think you weren't on the last talk where I talked about just even when we're out in public, right? When we're walking through the store, is looking, did anybody make you feel uncomfortable? When we had to go put the groceries in the car at night, did you notice anything? You want to teach them those things, that inner wiring that we all have, that socialization of every kind pushes down and it puts us in dangerous spaces.
Yeah. So
Taisha, go ahead.
yes, so like Natalie and Jill was saying, Michelle, just teaching them the boundaries with everyone, even with within culture, because again, all of us on here from different cultures, and what works for your family may not work for the next family, but it's not to suppress what your culture is doing. You don't want to rob them of that as well. Natalie, you made a point and you stated that a lot of kids don't tell because they don't want to be the one to cause issues within the family or within the friend circle. And it's so ironic that you said that because in my last book, those were my exact words as to why I did not tell anyone that I was molested. My mom, I was molested until maybe 6 months before I got ready to get married. And she was helping me move out of my apartment to move into her, and to live with her until we got married. And she was like, well, Nikki, why didn't you say anything? And it was because I didn't want to make anyone upset. I didn't want anyone mad because I am very family oriented. And it was just like, um, I just didn't want no one upset. And the fact that a lot of times it's, everybody is young, like we're all young. So maybe they knew, maybe they didn't. Maybe they was exploring and I just happened to be an experiment because I know in Southern African American culture, there's a lot of playing house. And whether that's you being the mom, I'm being the teacher, the doctor, whatever, it was always play. Now, there were some who overly played based off of what they saw, the family dynamics of what mom and dad was supposed to do and not supposed to do. Um, Even down to me recently reading a book, No, I'm Not Okay, Excuse Me While I Unmask. The author speaks on being a 6-year-old giving sexual favors for some crunching munch. And she said prior to, she had been touched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It didn't make her feel nasty. But this encounter, because it was oral, she felt uncomfortable about the situation because it was just like, okay, now I feel nasty. And she didn't even want the crunching much after the fact. So a lot of times it's the same age kids because they are experimenting and they're doing different things. And some of it may be harmless, in their eyes. It's like, well, I didn't know I was hurting you, or I didn't know, this thing is happening because it's, is what they see, is what, they become accustomed to. And it's very, very important to have conversations in different words with your kids. My mama was an OG, okay? I'm gonna say that respectfully. She said, I'm going to give you the book terminology, and then I'm gonna give it to you the way you're gonna hear it in the streets. So when you're out and about, they're not going to ask for vagina. They're not going to use those words. These are the words that are used. And I was like, okay, I got you. So being able to have that, that open dialogue. And even though my mom and I are really close and we have those things, it wasn't until I became an adult, right before I got married, that I shared that with her. And, it unfortunately it happens that way. So I get kind of confused when people like, why they waited so long to say something? And it's just like people have different reasons. Sometimes they can't formulate in words what really happened, or they're trying to justify what happened, or trying to forgive themselves for possibly putting themselves in that position, and then forgiving the next person, and then I'm able to share. So there are definitely stages when it comes to it. I remember being in middle school. I was on Black Planet. I didn't even have what am I doing on Black Planet? I don't know if y'all remember the social media app, Black Planet. It was on the computer, and I got on it because all of the girls in the library was on Black Planet, and they was like, "Oh, Taisha, let me create you an account." So I'm on Black Planet, and I'm almost certain it was probably just adults. Why are we on there? You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So
Hmm.
regardless of what we're taught at home, or some things that we know and don't know, when we get amongst our peers, they're doing
Hmm.
different things. And sometimes we just
Yeah.
want to be included to see what's going
Yeah.
on because I'm nosy by nature. So I just want to see
Yeah.
what the hype was, if I'm being honest. But when I saw it was grown people and that was conversing back, and I was like, these are the words my mama said. So I
Yeah.
cannot engage in that. And being, on TV late at night, back in the day, they used to have numbers, sexy numbers, hotline,
Yep.
call this number
Yep.
for such and such. You got a cousin like, oh, let's call, let's see what they're doing, let's play on the phone. So for us, it was playing on the phone, but for someone else, it was, this is really happening in their lives. And when
Hmm.
my daughter got old enough to get a cell phone, I think she had a cell phone when she was like 9 or 10. It was, I just randomly, let me see your phone. Even in high school, oh, let me see your phone. And she knew at the drop of the dime, mama's going to see my phone and I'm just going to scroll. I'm going through messages with you and your homegirls. I'm going through Instagram, Snap, whatever social media platform you're on. I am looking at it. And we're friends on all social media platforms because I want you to have that freedom, but I also want you to know that at any moment, if you're doing something, mama is going to see it. And I need you to be on the
Hmm.
lookout for guys of this age. So she's 19 now.
And be
And
nosy, right? As a
yes,
mom,
girl,
be
listen.
nosy.
Listen, being nosy but
Hmm.
having boundaries is a fine line, but you got to make it work for you and yours.
Yeah.
Like with her being 19 now, I may post a picture or something, and then some people on my page will try and run over there to her. She's like, "Mama, quit sending your people to see me." And I be like, "It is not intentional," because I didn't tag her at one point because I knew people are weird. Like if I'm just being honest,
Hmm.
like people are weird. And being that I experienced, molestation and, that thing, I didn't, and I thank God for my tuition that I did not overly protect her to make her feel weird or make everybody else seem like a target. And I
Yeah.
prayed that God gave her that spirit of discernment. And her spirit of discernment is sharp. She had one minor incident and she knew to make a phone call. Just
Right.
be safe,
Right.
y'all.
I
Let's
wish
not
they
be
caught all
vigilant.
the predators,
Yeah.
like
Yes,
on Law and
yes,
Order, right?
yes. I think we just have to
You
be
wish,
But I feel
yeah.
like
vigilant.
what you guys are saying about like it's like about boundaries and involvement and like being the parent in that way, but also creating a space for openness and
Yes,
not for judgment and shame. Like I feel like
absolutely.
shame is at the root of like pretty much like every problem I can think
Mm-hmm.
of when it comes to that kind of stuff in
Absolutely.
parent-child communication, right? Or just in life that we like hide these things and we keep them to ourselves and we don't open up to other people. But I feel like creating a space where the rules are clear, where boundaries are clear, and you're having these conversations, but where it also is like, and when and if, you mess up or you end up in a situation with something that you're not comfortable with, like, you can come to me. This is a safe space. Because as you're saying all this stuff, Tagisha, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I remember having sleepovers as a kid and like watching the late night TV with the number coming
Yes.
across, like, and like being exposed to stuff that I definitely did not understand, but wanting to be a part of the group. And or even like I remember when AOL like came out and I was in elementary school and I was in like chat rooms, I was not allowed to do it at my house, but at
You
my
too.
friend's house, to your point, yeah, that was
Yes.
not allowed. But was I still in it? Yes. And like, was I, now I look back, I'm like, oh my, like, thankfully nothing happened, but like, who in the hell
Yeah.
knows who I
Right.
was talking to and what we were doing?
Absolutely.
And we were young. So I just feel like you kind of have to have space for both. And I think like, I definitely grew up feeling very afraid of getting in trouble in a lot of different areas. So like, and I was like
Yes.
a really good kid, but I feel like even when I
Same.
did like kind of cross into territory like that, or ended up in a situation where I was uncomfortable, or maybe did something that was like questionable in the views of like what I was told was good and bad behavior, I would hide it because I was
Absolutely.
terrified of getting in trouble. And like, and I just like so much of what you guys are and your wisdom and like what you're sharing today is just making me think about, wow, how important it is to just create spaces like things happen. People make mistakes. Sometimes we end up in situations that maybe don't make us comfortable, or we start something and then we realize it doesn't align with our values, and just making it okay to come to you then for help. You'll never be in trouble. You're never going to be in
Right.
trouble, right?
Right.
Like that's just what keeps repeating in my
Yes.
head, like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
how important that is.
Yeah. And I
Yes. Thank
think
you
it's
for
it's
bringing that up,
also
Jill.
it's all, I mean, like you put this in the wide, scheme of parenting, right? Not just this specific thing of trying to prevent child sexual abuse or predatory behavior, but it's us keeping a strong line of what is really awful and what is
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, that's bad. And so, like, if
Right.
I'm flipping my cookies and screaming and yelling because, you spilt the milk, and I think that my kid's going to come to me when they've done something, like dangerous,
Yeah.
or something, put them in,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
to that degree,
So
like,
Yes.
we
true.
have to be a little bit more controlled and how
Yeah.
we respond to certain things, because our kids are going to mess up. Our kids are
Mm-hmm.
going to put themselves in bad situations with the
Mm-hmm.
way social media and games and all this is. Our kids are going to be exposed to way more stuff we ever wanted them to, right? They
Absolutely.
live in a world where they don't have the same skepticism of strangers. They don't
Yep.
have the same of, oh, I never really met you and I don't know who you attached to, where we had that because that's how we kind of originally met people. They met
Right.
people not knowing anything about them and befriended them, right? You think of the language around social media, right? Facebook, we're friends, right? And you think about that with kids, they don't have that concept to separate it. So when we
Mm,
step into those spaces, we're helping them understand there's different levels. Okay,
Yeah.
you're
yeah.
a friend on here, but they're not really a friend. Like, you don't know
Mm-hmm.
who this person is behind the
Mm-hmm.
screen. So you're
Mm-hmm.
being careful. Always also the conversation of, you can start something and you can be a part of it and you can decide to step out of it. And
Yep.
if you start feeling like it's dangerous and you need me to help you step out of it, I'm going to hear that and come in and rescue you so that you don't have to participate in it, right? Um, the monitoring devices that you can get on phones, like Bark is one. I use that for years. Is a really good one that monitors really well. It's only like $9.95 a month, so it's not like an extreme amount of money. And you can put the level and you can put certain apps on it. They keep growing with the different apps that they can monitor. All of them are not monitorable, so you have to be aware of that. And as you learning what these apps are, make sure if you're on a family plan, your kid, excuse me, cannot get an app without your approval. That way you can see
Yes.
everything they download and you're able to vet it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to realize, like, the nature of a lot of these apps really do go towards the predatory folks. You got so many apps now that have vanishing messages that you will never
Mm-hmm.
see what was
Mm-hmm.
sent.
Yes.
You have, the
Snapchat,
app Snapchat.
Instagram.
Oh, I mean,
Yes.
it's a lot of, and it's a lot of unknown ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say this, and I know we're running out of time, but just as strategies around, the digital space, it is you teaching your kid also the fact that if a person comes and, like, they DM you, right? And they tell you to go to another app, that's your first sign that there's something fishy going on. The reason why they ask you
Mm,
to go to another app is because they're trying to see how much movement they can get from you, how much
mm,
suggestibility they can have in your movement. Why can't we stay right here, right? And so you're paying attention to those little movements. If the conversation gets weird and they're asking for your personal information, you never give out personal information, right? You're being
Never.
careful about telling what neighborhood you're in, which school you go to. And now, I mean, look, 50 and 60-year-olds don't know how to keep their business together on social media. So imagine what little kids are seeing
Yeah.
with
No,
the
it's
amount
true.
of information that's
Yeah.
given, right? So we're like, they're in this world. We're like, no, you guys should have better, sense. Well, look at the adults. Look how adults act on social media. It's disgusting a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times. So our
Mm-hmm.
kids are
Mm-hmm.
seeing that too. And so we can't sometimes want them to be higher than what they are. They're still just little kids with brains that are not fully developed, right?
Yep.
So it's those little things that you're giving them. You're paying attention to their addiction level, right? Because we all have a little addiction to these doggone phones and all of this stuff. And it's terrible
Oh
and
yeah.
dangerous
So
for our
bad.
kids. You're paying attention to us, right? I slap my hand
No.
sometimes like, oh my
And
God.
it's like another episode. It's so bad. And it's like
It's so
I feel
bad.
like I support families with like screen detox from like a play perspective and like how we can replace that with play and stuff. And I'm like, I have to check myself. And I'm like, here you
Yeah.
are, like
Yeah.
telling these people what to be watching for, whatever. And like, what are you doing? Like,
Doing.
it's really, and for my kids too, because I feel like they're watching us, right? It's not just about what we say. It's not just around like the boundaries that we create for them. It's like, what are they observing? And like, partially
Yeah.
because of my work, but also not, let's be real. I'm on my phone a lot. And I like really
Yes.
have to
Oh,
like check
You have to
it. So
pay
one
attention to
like
it.
it's true. And just like being mindful of like, you know what, that's gonna go in the other room or having times of day that like during meals, like no phones at the
Yeah.
table and like just really holding
yes.
yourself to
Little
it.
rules.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's like it is so hard. And when you think about like if we're
Yeah.
this addicted to it, like,
Imagine
they're
looking.
growing up with it from birth. Like it's
They
just kind of
are.
crazy to think
Yeah.
about.
It's crazy. But another thing we want to keep along, and this is when your kids start getting older, okay? We have to realize how commonplace sexting is, okay? And showing and giving pictures that are inappropriate, okay? It's like almost an hello a lot of times. I mean, like
Yes.
first second introduction is
Yes.
like, hey, see me. But realize, and I learned this, I went to a training with the FBI and I kind of snuck in a little bit, but
Ooh.
about all of this, right? And they were saying, as children, you can be charged with child pornography,
Yep.
with
I see
having
it every day
Oh
other
in court.
wow.
children pornography. So you taking the picture is
Mm-hmm.
you creating the pornography. You sending it to your boyfriend, girlfriend, it's considered distribution.
Distributing.
There
Yep.
have been people that have been arrested and lives tore up
Yes.
over this small thing because children have no idea that they
Mhm.
would fall into that. And the
Yep.
fact that something I try to do, I teach like the younger kids, and all your pictures are sitting in Quantico because once
Mm.
it gets flagged, that is child pornography, it goes into a vault. And so you think of that about the amount of children that have sexted, right? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
just commonplace and we hope that our children won't fall, but hey, kids fall into this kind of
Holy
stuff.
moly, guys.
Yeah,
That's
I see it in
new.
court. Yes, I actually
Yeah.
have clients
Yes.
who, so for my nonprofit, we get a lot of our clients through the court system. So sitting in court, you have cases of kids in there for pornography, sexting, and it's just like you can either complete this program or now you have a record and you are a sex offender and you're a juvenile on the sex offender registry. You got to go turn yourself in for Halloween. You can't be, certain distances
Oh
from
my
schools,
God.
churches.
Yeah.
Yes, like it is a thing. Like it is a really, really big thing.
Yeah.
And to see so
I
many
Thank you
never
for
knew
talking
that.
kids,
about that. Yeah.
yes,
But you know
so
what?
Wow.
A
many young
lot of
kids
kids
come in
don't know
there.
that,
Yeah, I'm
Right,
sure
they
not.
don't.
right?
And the parents coming up upset, like, why my baby in trouble? It's because, ma'am, this is porn. She had on a bra. It's still child pornography. So it's a thing. Parents, children.
It is.
Listen, I had to pop
Yeah.
mine quickly. She thought she was sexy one day, and it was in her little drafts on Snapchat. I'm talking about the
Oh,
little bra
man.
leg. And,
Ugh.
ma'am, give me that. Because what are we doing? Little shorts too short. Not on social media,
Uh-oh.
Pookie. And she was like
Yeah.
12.
No.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
had to
Oh,
It's
explain to
12.
no,
her,
it's
Oh.
you want to go
crazy.
to jail? Because you
Yeah.
going. So, yeah.
Right.
No.
That's one way we can kind of make our kids like a little more, hey, you can get this. And the fact that You know, nothing is
Right.
deleted. And I tell
Yeah.
kids,
Yes.
nothing's deleted. You can delete, but
Nope.
nothing's deleted. And jobs now, colleges now go through all your social media. They're looking to see who
Yes.
you are, who you portray yourself to be. You can lose scholarships and jobs and all of that and not get admitted into schools if they think that you're a person
Because
that
of it.
won't uphold their idea of what they want as students. Like it
Mhm.
seems like it's not a big deal, but it
But it's
is
a
a
big
big
deal.
deal. And
Yes.
we
Mhm.
have a footprint. Our digital footprint is so vast. And a lot of our kids are starting their digital footprint at, 5 and 6 years old, right?
Yes.
And that is something that they have to be aware of. My last little piece, you guys can see I'm passionate about this. Turn off all locations on all maps and all apps,
Mhm.
okay? You do not want your
Okay.
location setting on because people can track you, even with your camera. I tell adults this, because you take a picture and post
Yeah.
it, someone can copy that picture, put it in Google, and they will show the exact location where you
Mhm.
are, like sitting in a restaurant. So you want to
Wow.
cut off locations. If you're using it like a map, use it while it's on only. But all
Right.
of the other ones, do not use it. And you know what Snapchat did that was very clever, because I don't trust any of these people. They put in this thing where now you can
The
map where your friends
location.
are.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And it's like ghosts that kind of go along and show you where everybody
Yeah.
is that you're friends
Yeah.
with. Like that is
Yeah.
so dangerous. Or apps like Foursquare, where you check into wherever you are and you get points, right?
Mhm.
Looks cool. You're doing it with your
It
friends,
does look
but you're
cool.
actually
Yeah.
also giving an imprint to what your normal
Mhm.
schedule is. People
Yeah.
know
Mhm.
when you used to go to the Starbucks and when you go to the grocery store and when you get to the job and when you leave your job and so you're putting a timeline on your life
Eesh.
for people that could be
Wow.
very dangerous, that could get into your life. So it's letting our
That's
kids have this
crazy.
information and knowing, but there's so many dangers in this digital space that adults don't know about, let alone kids
Yeah.
know about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a finish.
Natalie, Taisha, Jill, thank you so much. I know, Natalie, you can, that's why I have a part 2, girl.
I know. I was gonna
You.
say, maybe we need part 3.
We'll definitely touch upon more. I mean, we have so many things to talk about in this area, but we wanna give this information to parents. If I could do things over again with my children, I would take some of our advice and I would have some of the things that we're discussing today. So, learn from our mistakes, and hopefully, you can do it right. And again, we're not perfect. We're not trying to say, be that uptight mama, but it's too expensive. I think emotionally, I think it costs too much when it happens and we don't have the resources. Fine, but I guess at the end of the day, if we try our best, that's the best we can do, and we take it one day at a time when and if our children are exposed. So I really want to thank Taisha, Jill, Natalie, and of course Michelle. She had to get going, we're so excited that you're tuning in with us every week, and we hope to bring more of these topics for you. So we'll see you guys next time.
Till next time. I love it.
Bye.